Hey guys, welcome to Spirit Guide's Thirsty Thursday Happy Hour. We're so glad you could tune in these crazy times. We hope that this can provide a little sense of conviviality and community for you. So without further ado, let's talk about what's on the docket tonight. We were inspired by some classic rock mixes and picked some cocktails around that. They're two different whiskey cocktails, so clearly you're gonna need some whiskey. Also bitters, Angostura bitters is the preferred brand, but anything you got will do. Some honey, some ice, a couple of lemons, fresh blackberries, fresh mint, activated charcoal, which is an optional ingredient. It gives it some really nice color, but doesn't really change the flavor very much. And finally, you're gonna need soda water. So, if you are gathering those ingredients, you'll also need some tools. You're gonna need a cocktail shaker, a measuring device such as a jigger, a hawthorn strainer, a muddler. To prepare the ingredients, you'll need a liquid measure, a saucepan, a stirring utensil of some kind, such as a wooden spoon, a citrus press. You can also use your hand, and a cutting board and a knife. So, if you don't have those tools, we have some substitutes for you. Hopefully you have them lying around. The first is the cocktail shaker. You absolutely need to shake these drinks. That's how you incorporate the citrus. So this water bottle with the wide mouth might work, or a mason jar, which is my personal favorite. We often use 2-liter jars when we are making large batches of cocktails. If you don't have a jigger, you can use a combination of a liquid measure and a tablespoon. FYI, a tablespoon is a ½ ounce. So you'll have to math at some point, I suppose. We'll help you though, promise. If you don't have a muddler, you can use something like this. Basically any large dildo-esque utensil will function as a muddler. You just need to be able to express things, crush blackberry. You can use a butter knife, but we like a little bit of a fatter edge for this. If you don't have a hawthorn strainer, you can use a spatula! It's not ideal, but if you just do that, you'll keep most of the ice out of the drink. And then finally, a strainer like this. If you have some form of a mesh strainer, this is great, especially for drinks where you're muddling. It'll strain out some of the particulars of the blackberry and the mint. So if you have one of these laying around, this is great. Next up is one of my favorite things, which is our brand new cocktail kits. So here they are. We've been working very hard on these, and they have all the ingredients that you need to make your drinks. So let's take a look inside. We have the whiskey, we have the lemon, we have the blackberry, the honey, and the fresh ingredients. So if you are feeling lazy, or you just can't get these ingredients, or you don't want to go to a grocery store, feel free to hop online, go to our website at spiritguidescocktails.square.site and order yourself a kit. For LA residents, we will deliver it to you. So, now that we have all that out of the way, let's get on to making some things. Al?
Oh yeah, I'm getting down with the classic rock vibes today. Hope you don't mind my costume change. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We're gonna do some killer cocktails, one of which we designed ourselves. It's called Black Water. It's a tribute to the Doobie Brothers, and it's a riff on a Gold Rush. A Gold Rush is a great cocktail that was invented in New York City in the early 2000s using 3 very simple ingredients. Even though it wasn't named after the Neil Young song, at least we don't think it was, we figured close enough. So first of all, we're going to make a Gold Rush, and then we're going to show you our variation on the very thing. So let's take a look at the first recipe. So like I said, the Gold Rush was formed in New York City. It was a very popular drink at a bar called Milk and Honey, which still remains a very popular cocktail bar as far as I know.
Oh, it's no longer Milk and Honey. It's now Attaboy.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It changed.
So the main bartender from Milk and Honey ended up buying the bar before Sacha Petrovsky passed, and he took it over and dubbed it Attaboy.
Well, there you go. Fun facts that even I didn't know. This place was really an epicenter of a lot of great cocktails that were being created during the classic cocktail resurgence of the early 2000s, and this drink was no exception. It's a very simple combination of bourbon, lemon juice, and a rich honey syrup. So it's very similar to a whiskey sour, which we did last week. In fact, the only change is that we're doing a rich honey syrup versus a simple syrup. So the first thing that we're going to do is show you guys how to make a rich honey syrup. When you see rich, that just means that it's not 1-to-1 ratio. Usually it means it's 2-to-1. So whereas simple syrup we had 1 part water per 1 part sugar, this is going to be 2 parts honey to 1 part water. You dig? Can you dig it? All right, so the trick with simple syrup is that, the trick with rich honey syrup is that honey is a really, really difficult ingredient to play with in cocktails, and it needs to be pretty liquidy. So we're just going to add a little bit of boiling water to honey that's in our liquid measure container. Don't try to measure it in here and then scrape it into there. You're just going to make yourself miserable. So first of all, we're going to measure out just 2 ounces of water, just like that, easy peasy. And we're going to dump those 2 ounces into our saucepan. And we're going to turn the heat on. Boom. And just going to bring that water to a boil, which is going to happen really, really rapidly. While that is going on, we can add honey to our liquid measure, and we're going to want to get a solid 4 ounces out of this. See how thick that is, and just moving really, really, really slowly.
Don't talk to me about thick, Al.
In fact, I am just going to take this top off to make it a little bit easier. Can you see that okay? Not really. All right, I'll bring that into frame a little bit better. There we go. Oh, there we go. So we're just going to do 4 ounces of honey. This stuff has been refrigerated, which is probably part of the problem. There we go. Just about right.
Is
that too much?
Closer to 6 ounces of honey.
Oh, that's closer to 6. All right, well, we'll throw in a little bit of extra water. Good thing I have a jigger here, so I can just measure another ounce. Part of being a good bartender is being able to work on the fly. So now our water is probably already starting to boil. Again, it's not very much water. If yours takes another minute, don't be worried. Let it get a little bit hotter. Oh yeah, that's going. No problem. So the water is boiling. I'm going to turn it off. Thank you, stove. And now we've got our honey already measured here. And I'm just going to pour the boiling water right on top of the honey. It's not going to want to incorporate, so get a bar spoon or some other spoon and just kind of work it in. We're just working the water into the honey, and it's going to melt it, I guarantee it. It feels like it won't at first, but it starts going. There we go. Just keep stirring, just keep stirring, just keep stirring. And this is a rich honey syrup, folks. It really is that easy. So again, that was just 2 parts honey to 1 part water. If you screwed up like I did, no big deal. You can just add a little more water. You can always add to measure out these ratios. It's simple math. It ain't rocket science. It's rock and roll. Woo! All right, so that's looking pretty okay. Getting there. You'll notice that it's once it stops kind of clinging to the side of the Pyrex, that it's pretty good. Okay, I think that's good. So now we've got our rich honey syrup. First ingredient that we're going to need to make our Gold Rush tonight. So for those of you at home, you're going to use this. I'm going to follow along though with our friends in cocktail kit country. I'm going to pop out our ingredients from here so I can show you guys how fun this is. So there we go. We've got our little ingredients. I'll set these out for later from our box. Okay. Superb. So Now we've got our honey syrup, and let's go back to the recipe to make sure we've got everything that we need. All right, so it's just very simply the same thing as a whiskey sour. 2 ounces of bourbon, 3/4 ounces of our citrus, which is lemon juice in this case, and 3/4 ounces of honey syrup. When we first actually tried this out, we were concerned that the rich honey syrup was actually going to be a little bit too much sweetness. I remember having a gold rush in about 2007 and being blown away by it. So this is how they did it. We're going to do it this way, see if it is too sweet or not. We're going to start with the honey. You always want to start with measuring the ingredient that is the sweetener, because it tends to kind of stick to the liquid measure. So there we go. Let's just drop that in the tin. Bloop! 3/4 ounces, and why not make it a double? Because no one likes drinking alone. I'm not alone. We're just practicing social distancing, right, Jer?
That's correct. 6 feet at all times.
So 2 servings of that should kick your honey syrup out, and 2 of the lemon. You're gonna have lemon left over because we are gonna use this again if you're following along with the kit. There we go. Check the overhead shot. And finally, 2 ounces each of some Four Roses, an unpaid advertisement for Four Roses, courtesy of Spirit Guides. Look at that, just about perfect. You can make 2 drinks at a time, but you don't really want to make any more in a shaker because the amount of liquid, if you can see that there, it starts to get a little oppressive. And especially when we add the ice in, it's just going to be a little bit too much if we start measuring anything more than 2 drinks. But 2 at a time, that's just fine. We got our ice, and we can pour the liquid ingredients in here. Give it a little pat, give it a shake. It's one drink that doesn't necessarily need a ton of dilution like the daiquiri did. Doesn't need to be super, super cold. That smells really good. So now we'll get our glassware. And in this case, we're going to strain this over fresh ice cubes. So 3 or 4 cubes per cocktail is usually pretty good. I like these nice big cubes from our buddies at Penny Pound Ice.
Another plug for free.
Free plugs! We're giving them away! That's the rock and roll way. And then we're going to fine strain, or not fine strain, excuse me, just regular strain our drinks. So we're just holding back the ice that's in the tin and pouring it nice, delicately, a little bit sloppily, but hey, it's rock and roll, into our glasses. There we go. A Gold Rush. Jer, why don't you grab yours, tell me what you think, man. Social distance cheers with your neighbor. Hopefully if you're sharing drinks with somebody right now, you like them quite a bit.
Oh, that's tasty. The texture of the rich honey syrup really makes this cocktail fantastic. If it was any thinner, I think it'd lose something. And it's not overly sweet, it's just the right amount of sweetness.
Definitely. So. I actually read recently that honey syrup in a lot of cases, even without saying rich, is a 2-to-1 syrup. So it might be something worth trying. Yeah, it's a really nice ingredient. Honey is typically considered to be sweeter than just regular sugar. But this is great, man. This is like what bears would drink. You know, we can see Winnie the Pooh. Oh, this is a great cocktail. Really, really great.
I just love the visual of Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh sharing a gold rush in the 100-acre forest.
I think that's kind of like us, man.
Sure is.
We switch up who gets to play Pooh, though. I did just want to take some time, since we are taping this, to give a toast while we're drinking to a dear friend of mine who unfortunately passed away this past week. His name was Peter Gamba. He was a fantastic editor who I worked with in my days in the reality TV world. And my condolences go out to his family. This is a very serious thing that we're all confronting. I didn't think that I would know anyone that was so affected by the coronavirus, but here we are, you know. So, guys, please be safe. you know, take care of yourself, wash your hands, respect people's distance, and you know, try to stay at home. Do as much as you can at home, and we're here trying to do our part to help you guys have a good time without having to leave your house. So rest in peace, Peter, and cheers, man. He was a rock and roll kind of guy, so I think he'd appreciate the show tonight. That's tasty. That was even better than I expected. Yeah, this is a great drink. In my days as a reality editor, I remember having one of these at a bar in Studio City. It was right around that time that cocktails were kind of coming back into the zeitgeist, if you will, of the times. Well, maybe we should have a little story time in preparation for the next cocktail.
I love story time with Al.
Story time with Al it can go one of two ways. What's nice about this next drink is that it's pretty much using relatively the same ingredients, so we don't have to rinse our tins. You can just dump the ice, and we'll get some fresh ice in there, so you don't even have to worry about rinsing your tins. The Gold Rush is an aptly named drink, which segues nicely into the story of our next cocktail, which is a recipe that was passed down for many generations, and the story goes something like this. There was a coal miner who lived in the Black Hills in Tennessee, and he worked in the coal mines all week long. He'd worked there for so many years that his fingers were just covered in soot. But he liked to go hunting whenever he had some downtime, so he would go camping and spend days, weeks out in the woods on his off time, shooting pheasants and making sure that he didn't interfere with the black bears who lived there in the Black Hills. Well, one day he got caught in a terrible, terrible storm, and he was washed down a side of a hill, and he hit his head and he became unconscious. Luckily, he was woken up not long afterwards by some, I don't know, local squirrels or something. But he had no idea where he was or where he'd fallen to, how to get back. All he had on him was his trusty rifle and his trusty bottle of moonshine. Some of his bathtub whiskey, if you will. And so the only thing that kept him going throughout this was finding ingredients in the forest to combine with the moonshine to make a delicious nectar. And he pulled some lemons off of a local citrus tree in the forest. And then right across from the citrus tree, he saw a beehive, and he swatted it down. And he took out some of the honey, and he mixed that in with the lemon juice and the moonshine. But then he was struck, out of the corner of his eye, a small blackberry bush growing right next to some invasive mint, looking just like that. And voila! He combined the ingredients together, but the charcoal that was on his fingers also seeped into all the ingredients. And so when he finally combined this drink, he forever after called it the Black Water, because the color of the drink was tainted by the charcoal of his fingers. Now, is that not an amazing story? Is it true? Well, that's only for you to find out. But now we're going to move to our very own Blackwater cocktail, inspired by old Jim. Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome.
Crazy old Jim. There, wait, was that him? I heard a voice.
The ghosts of Jimmy past.
So this is our Blackwater. Doobie Brothers Blackwater is one of my favorite tunes. So be sure to jam that after you make it while we drink this. This has 2 ounces of bourbon, 3/4 ounces of a blackberry cordial, which we make with honey, and lemon juice. So basically, it's a Gold Rush. It's just a little bit of a different variation. Now we're going to do 2 builds on this because some of you have the cocktail kit and some of you do not, which is totally fine. If you have all these ingredients that we brought up at the top of the show, you're going to be just fine. So I'll do 1 tin with the ingredient build from scratch, and the next tin with the ingredient build from the cocktail kit. Now in either case, we're going to do something very, very fun, which is called muddling. Muddling is the process of kind of pressing fresh fruits and herbs into the cocktail to get their aromatics, their flavors popping out. We're going to do that in either case with mint. But if you are building this from scratch, you're also going to be muddling the blackberries. Now the key is you want to muddle the fresh ingredients into the sweetening agent that you're using. So in the case of you building it from scratch, you're going to use honey syrup. Now don't do 3/4. You're going to do 1/2 ounce of our rich honey syrup, which we just made. So you're going to put that in your tin. Now for those of you who are following along like good boys and girls with our very, very excellent blackberry cordial, you're going to measure 3/4 of this. All the complicated work of the additional ingredients has already been done for you. So we can put that in there. There we go. And now let's take some fresh mint. If you got a kit that's in your little perishables tin. And we're just gonna, good 5-6 mint leaves will do. We discovered recently that the aromatics are actually much stronger in the smaller leaves, which kind of makes a lot of sense. You can think of it as a concentrated, kind of like scorpion. So there we go, we've got mint in our tins. And we'll just do 3 big blackberries like that. If you've got these at home and you're building it fresh, just plop those right in there. And now we're just going to do a little muddling. You don't want to just tear the thing to shreds. You're just kind of gently pressing and twisting the mint leaves into the syrup. Oh yeah, it's starting to come along. A little bit more maybe. So if you ever see bartenders using this tool, it's called a muddler, and this is what it's for. Just pressing fresh fruits and herbs into our cocktail. There we go. Now these are looking pretty darn even. You're officially muddlers, y'all. Now, if you're building this one from scratch, we're going to try to add a couple of other things. They're totally optional, so if you don't have them, don't worry about it. Some bitters. Angostura bitters work great. We're using Dashfire brand's Jerry Thomas decanter bitters. Just give it a couple of dashes. Again, if you're using the cocktail kit, you don't need to add anything extra. All this has already been done. And this is our Crazy Old Jim activated charcoal. You can get this stuff at GNC in capsule form. We don't need too much, but this is just charcoal dust, basically. It's actually very, very good for you. Help to clear it out. Get over the hangover before you even encounter it. And then we just give that a little stir in there. All right. Cool. All right. So now we've got our muddled ingredients here in the tins, and let's just take one double check again with that recipe. So we've got our blackberry cordial now taken care of in both cases, and in both cases now we're going to add 1/2 ounce of lemon juice and 2 ounces of bourbon. It couldn't be easier. So there we go, we've got 1/2 ounce of lemon for you, and 1/2 ounce of lemon for you, and 2 ounces, which is the big side of your jigger, filled all the way up, of our lovely bourbon. Oh. Add the mic. ready to shake. The old double shake. Whoa yay, whoa yay. Groovy. Old black water, it keeps on rolling.
Mississippi moon, won't you keep on shining on me?
Old black water, it keeps on rolling. Don't sue us. Oh yeah. There's a definite fragrance difference that I can kind of tell, but I'm not 100% sure. And this drink we like to serve a little bit lengthened sometimes. It kind of depends on the day, how you're feeling. But you can use some ice, some kind of crushed ice from the bottom of your bag, or even some good pebble ice. If you've got an ice machine at home on your fridge, you might want to try this with some crushed ice cubes. And now we're gonna strain it. Is there a fine strainer around here I could try? Probably don't need it. I think we'll be okay without it. That's fine. Here we go. Get your strainer on, fresh ice, and just tip. Whoa, look at the color difference.
Color difference is crazy.
That color difference is crazy. I've got a feeling that the one over here on my right, screen left, is the one with our pre-made cordial. What do you think?
I would guess that's the case.
I didn't really monitor it, so I'm not exactly entirely sure. We can top these off with some more cubes. There we go. Oh, whoa, whoa! What is it, the Titanic?
Going down.
Usually with crushed ice like this, we may not need to do the lengthening, but we'll see. You guys can be the judge of your own, do your own taste tests. This is a good one to have a straw with. So there we go. So now, before we finish, we're gonna do a little garnishing, and I know you're gonna love this part because you get to be bad baby bartender, bad baby, and you're gonna smack the mint. So what this is doing when you smack the mint, just on the side of your hand, or I know you've seen bartenders spank it like that. That's just releasing the aromatics of the mint leaves. So not only does it look pretty, but it's adding a nice little presentation element to the top of your drink. So you can just stick that right up there. And if you've got a couple other spare blackberries lying around, why not toss them in on top? For the repeat view.
Keep my mint away from your mouth.
You gonna have this one?
Yeah.
All right, this one's Jer's. And a little blackberry for you? Why not? Let me grab some straws here.
How convenient.
Because this is a really good good drink to have with some straws. We've got these cool hay straws here. I mean, that looks fairly exceptional.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say? Look at you guys. You built your own fancy Spirit Guides brand cocktail. Oh yeah, let me leave it there. Social distance cheers. Ga-ga! And we'll have a little taste.
Oh, that's tasty. Blackberry
Ooh, yeah.
and mint is such a lovely combination.
The blackberry, the mint. So if you've got any of the other one left over, which you may or may not, you can kind of do a little side-by-side taste and see how this variation was achieved. Yeah. All those same things are at play. We're just layering things on. So this is how cocktails are built. You know, we're all kind of standing on the shoulders of giants. This is a riff, if you will, on a gold rush, which makes a lot of sense given the theme. I think this is pretty good. I don't know if it really even needs the club soda. What do you think?
No. It's
Yeah.
spot on. It's
Oh
great
man,
texture,
that's really
great
nice.
flavor.
Maybe given that it's so rainy and dreary out these days, something a little heavier feels better
Yeah.
for some reason. But if you're on a hot summer day and that feels a little too tart, just get some club soda and top it off to your heart's content. That's called lengthening, which we're going to get into, I'm sure, in one of these episodes coming up here.
I hope we get into some length soon.
We're going to lengthen, man. Woo! All right, well, that's our show for you guys this week. We got 2 great cocktails out of it. We hope you really enjoyed following along as much as we enjoyed making it. And tune in next week because we are going Greek, baby. This is going to be a theme all around the wonderful world of gin. Now, I know some of you are thinking, I don't like gin, but we're going to make gin lovers out of you, and we're going to show you why. Again, 2 great cocktails coming at you. If you want to get a kit, go to spiritguidescocktails.square.site, and you can tune in next Thursday at 8 p.m. Pacific at www.twitch.tv/spiritguides. And of course, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Spirit Guides Cocktails. Thanks, guys. Rock on, and we'll see you next time.